If you can click it.
Yeah, if you
There we
click the
go.
damn thing. Hello, Josh.
Hello.
Hello.
We probably cut in there.
Oh, well,
Doesn't matter.
it's fine. I like it.
Of course, on the day. Anyway, I won't even get started. So, you're doing the intro today.
I am doing the intro. I'm
Simon's
in the
doing it.
midst of doing the intro. What do you think Hello, Josh was?
I can't shut my mouth. Quick, while I've got tea in it.
Hello, everyone. This is Josh. I am Simon. We are in a band. That becomes less and less weird to say every week, which in itself is pretty weird. I am not musical. Josh is musical.
Debatable.
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 If neither of us are musical, why have we formed a band?
Because we're crazy, man!
Oh, that's annoying. Anyway,
Annoying
so
that we're crazy or annoying that we're in a band?
yes. So we are being silly buggers, apparently, and we are trying to make a way forward for ourselves in the craziness that is the music industry while DIYing the whole thing and being very transparent about it. And that's the point of this stream. We are now 8 weeks deep into this little silliness, and we are on the verge of having our first release, which is exciting and scary.
So much so, I think we've been procrastinating it to a degree.
Well,
At least I have.
I haven't been involved in the production, you see, so
I mean, you have a little bit.
There's
There's
no,
only one person to blame here,
and that is you.
and it's this owl cup. This one.
This owl cup.
Yeah.
Well, there you go. You should throw it against the wall dramatically.
No.
Speaking of walls, I feel like we're both cosplaying the walls behind us.
Yeah, maybe.
You've ended up in a brick color,
And you've ended up in a...
a dusty chalkboard color. Wow.
Yeah, it matches your hair.
I am a dusty chalkboard of a human.
That's right. So, yes. So, I thought, well, that's a good place to start. Well, no, it's not a good place to start because I wanted to say something. Of course, on the day where we have no fucking time,
Yes.
this thing decides
Yes.
to do its thing.
That's one of the other things that we're building proficiency in as part of this silly venture that we're on is how to computer.
How to computer. We should stop self-deprecating. It's not silly.
I mean, I think life is silly. We're embracing the absurdity of what it means to do anything.
Yeah, and we may as well do something we want to do if we're here the once
Yeah.
that we're here. I mean, that's certainly what I've been feeling the last couple of days.
If this doesn't work, I'm going full-time forest frolicker. That'll be my next career move.
Forest frolicker.
I'm going to become a local Sasquatch.
Debatable, but you already probably are.
You'll just see photos start showing up in Illawarra press of this
Yeah,
hairy naked man running through the woods.
that's right. Well, yeah. Look, I think there's something to talk about there about technology getting in the way, not the Sasquatch part. I feel like in the past, we've done this in the past. We've bailed on a stream before because it was so technically we've been at it for 9 weeks because we missed a week because of that
True.
whole stitch up.
I'd forgotten about that.
And it was a stitch up, and today was not a stitch up. It was kind of
But
annoying.
it's close.
Well, yeah,
It could have gone differently.
it could have. But, like it worked this time and we were able to troubleshoot it. And I think this is the same with a lot of production stuff that gets done on these tracks because, I think a good example of that this week is the backwards and forwards myself and Matt have had, and you as well, on little fine details on this track that we've been working on for quite some time. And,
Yeah.
all the backwards and forwards have come from a place of wanting to do the best we can with what we've produced. And yes, we're 3 people in a group together, so we're not going to have the same opinion all the time, which is, challenging at the best of times. But it's certainly, I still don't do well with feedback for the most part. I think I'm getting better. The pain lasted a shorter time this time.
Oh.
But it was enough that because I was struggling a little bit, like we talked about last week, with finding the soul, what I thought the soul of the song was in the mix, and it kind of came together really quickly once I did find it. It really took running drums through an amp, reamping drums, the drum bus through an amp, and then mixing it in with the drums that I had mixed.
Whose clever suggestion was it to do that?
Was it yours?
It was.
Matt's done it before too.
Oh, has he? Oh, that's nice.
Yeah. Oh, look at that! We took a drink at the same time.
Delicious.
So, and that kind of really helped out. But the funny thing was, it wasn't Matt's favourite thing, which I thought was quite. This just goes to show that the number of different ways you can do something is immeasurable, and there kind of needs to be a line that you draw at some point as to like who's doing what job.
Yeah.
And in the case of this band, Matt is kind of looking after the initial production, and then I'm looking after the end, basically, at the moment. That might flip around, because Matt's an incredibly good mix engineer, I think, and applies his philosophical thoughts around art and culture and all that to his mixes.
But you also get diminishing returns, right? Like what I'm observing from my untrained and you know the view of someone who hasn't done this before is that the difference between it being at sort of 80% complete and 100% complete, or 99% complete as it is now, has been a lot of tiny tweaks that have, in terms of where it was at 80% versus where it is now, is not a whole lot different. It's very small changes.
Yeah.
I don't know that.
Well, when were you talking about 80%?
I'm talking like time wise.
Oh yeah,
the amount of time spent on it. Of if we just viewed it as a linear.
But I've already
80%.
I've kind of already thought about that in this mix, how that needs to be different for the next mix, and part of that is the way that Matt essentially hands over stems to me. So with Only Yesterday, which is what we're calling. That's the name for Not So Nostalgic, has been named. We've got a birth certificate. We wrote on the birth certificate. We had the birth certificate. We just hadn't written a name. It was no name, Not So Nostalgic.
Had a working title.
Yeah.
Now it's got a middle name.
Little Bastard was
Oh
its
wow.
name.
Okay.
Yeah.
Is that because of how you felt about while mixing it?
Well,
is that why you're calling it Little Bastard?
Yeah, sure. I mean, it was a little bastard. No, look, all of the way that I felt came from me. It didn't come from the track. Like uncovering what it was difficult for me, because it was it was adopted.
So you're the little bastard in this.
Yeah. It was adopted, if we're going to take it that way.
I don't know where you're going with this analogy.
Well, I mean, Matt birthed it and then he handed it off to me, didn't he?
Wow.
Yeah, that's the analogy. You did this.
Does that mean that I'm the weird uncle?
Yeah.
Oh,
that
God.
touched it the wrong way.
What? By cutting off its intro.
That's right, you did. Yeah, you cut off its intro.
I circumcised it.
Mm-hmm.
Anyway.
That went weird really quick.
Yeah, no, I didn't like that. That was very unsettling. Well,
the thing is it happens and it sucks. So coming to the end of the mix and finding that swing, I tend to agree with you that like what I figured out in this mix that we need to do on the next ones with this handover that we've got is that Matt needs to effectively apply a lot of the effects he's already done to what he's handing over. Because why are you looking at
I'm listening. I'm listening to you.
So that when I get to the mix, there's already kind of a base template to work from. And so Matt's initial ideas around how he conceived the song initially kind of are transmitted to me in the form of these unreversible things that have happened.
Because you were falling into rabbit holes, tweaking settings and things.
Yeah, I think I was falling into because we'd done all this work on, like, as you kind of produce, you do kind of do these mixing things at the same time, and we effectively undid a lot of that when he handed over, because I said to him, don't leave EQ and any additional compression that you're not actually using for sound purposes on there. But those,
and now you think that you should have left that on.
Well, those decisions, they alter. Like, they mean I'm going back to square one. It's like putting sand back on the sandcastle that you carved out. Do you know what I mean? You then have to start from scratch and try and find the form again, and it's lost in the dirt, you know? And I think that's not necessarily a bad thing, but it is a bad thing if we're trying to work as like a group and transmit vision across a track. Do you know what I mean? Where there's no one person driving the boat.
Sure.
If that makes sense. So we'll try that on the next one, which is probably waiting line at this point because it's the most complete out of the rest of them. And we'll see how that works because this is ultimately experimentation. The only way I've mixed in the past has been in this handoff kind of way. But in those scenarios, like live mixing, which is a lot of the mixing that I'd done in the past, where I got a handoff effectively, you're taking something that is, like you kind of have to treat it in the same way as another live recording for the most part.
Yeah.
Like we talked about last week, we talked about the time constraints on those things.
And typically it's not some song that has no reference, right?
No, it has a reference on a record usually.
Yeah.
So you can reference, or the band has a sound reference, yeah. So
whereas we're in the wide blue ocean.
Yeah, we can do whatever we want.
Very different.
Problematic.
Well, different.
Well, no, it's problematic from that, that thing we keep talking about around the barriers and not barriers, the restrictions you put on yourself is where the creativity lives.
Mm-hmm.
Because with limited tools, you do interesting things because you have to problem solve in ways that you couldn't normally. It forces you outside of your comfort zone. And I guess the way that I mix this, because I chose to mix this in Ableton. I do mix in Ableton, but not.
You dumb fuck.
What? No, it's not dumb. It works good, but it has some limitations in the way that you do things, and the workflow is a bit different to say using Pro Tools. The one big thing that I found limiting was being able to use auxiliaries in a certain way.
Which is the one that nobody likes?
Pro Tools.
Right.
Yeah, it sucks.
Okay.
But I belatedly hate that it's kind of, I know it well enough that I want to be able to work quickly, So that's one of the challenges. I think the last night, whatever night it was, Friday maybe? When were we sitting in the studio finishing the mix?
It must have been Friday.
Yeah. Friday night, we spent, 2 hours just doing the last little zhuzhy bits in the main studio here. And that was like, that needed to happen. There's 2 more changes I want to make. Again, micro changes, which will get done immediately after this stream, and then that's it.
Great. Lock it in.
It's locked in at that point. And then that brings me to the next discussion is whether it's worth getting someone else to master or if I should just do it myself on these earlier tracks. I think we've already decided that we'll do it ourselves. Purely, I think part of it's speed, because my mastering engineer can't do it till the end of the week, and I'm not playing that game. And mastering for me isn't about touching the vibe of it, it's just bringing it up to level. So the vibe is there. You shouldn't have to play with it anymore, The luxury of sending it to someone would be nice, and we will do that in the future once our workflows are a bit better and we've got a nice cadence going. But I think now it's a luxury that we can't indulge.
Do we need to be You say like workflows.
Yes.
Do we need to be documenting those? I think that we should.
We probably should. I've been thinking a lot about workflows particularly around doing the initial writing sessions.
Mm-hmm. Well, I mean, yeah, my views on this stuff is that
document everything,
processify as much as possible, create yourself some systems for repeatable genius.
Sure.
That's the way to good creativity in my mind, is that if you can find a way that it works once, there's probably things that you can look at and replicate a second time to get you to a similar place. So it's not just it's fine to just be in pure experimental mode and see what comes out of the blue. But as soon as you get something that's hitting, then you can't just rely on being out there, out in the weeds and hoping that something hits again, because it's wasteful.
Yeah. And particularly where we're coming from, where we're balancing other work.
Yeah, we need to be
particularly
efficient.
Well, the way that I am at the moment, I'm finding it. This is the first week where I've felt like I'm finding it hard to keep up. And things that I shouldn't probably sacrifice, like time with my partner, are being potentially sacrificed to a degree. Though I think I did all right ultimately in the end this week, but the balances are it's a bit hairy, you know.
Yeah.
Though a lot of what I've been doing with frights and outside of frights has meant that I'm a lot more fulfilled, particularly when I walk away from my current day jobs. They're very muchly. I did it again. They're very much tied up in a neat bow.
Yeah.
At the end of the day.
Yeah, you don't need to be thinking about it.
No.
Following up with further
Like as
admin.
soon as I walk off site,
you're done.
I'm done. And the thoughts don't follow me home. I'm not obsessing.
There's a lot of joy in that.
Yeah, and particularly if this is my focus, and I've been getting a lot of fulfillment out of this, even though it's been fucking frustrating. Sometimes I've just been doing the whole eat the elephant in 1,000 bites kind of thing. Even though there's 1,000 bites there, and I can see those 1,000 bites, and that's the problem. It still feels quite overwhelming. But I think that feeling will change once this track is in a streaming platform, you know. Like we said, we're going to use 2 Lost to start with. And I'm really keen to get a track in there and just see how it works, you know. Because I haven't really done this before. The last time I released something, I did it on CD Baby, and I actually printed CDs. So it's been a while.
It's been a while. You're an old man.
Yes, that's right. But I'm finding the process fun. And Matt coming back from his hectic work schedule, which, you know, we're kind of looking at 2 or 3 weeks at this point away, which is really good, will mean that like we can probably lock in some other production days for new music, and
Great.
we'll see him a bit more, which will be good, because that'll kind of line up with the release of this and the next track that we want to do. And I've been thinking about that just in between, because I would like to kind of keep exploring this idea of staying on working with Tommy and Apucho, Ghost Coast, for a couple more songs. We've got like Only Yesterday's was an early, a season 2 Friday Night Lights thing, and Waiting Line was the one we did 6 weeks ago, whatever it was, 8 weeks ago. No, it was probably about 6 weeks ago. And it came together really quickly in a very similar way to Only Yesterday. And
yeah, so there's some kind of musical telepathy there.
There's something going on. And there's some other things that I want to document for posterity, because we haven't really written them down yet, and I'd like to.
Yeah.
The first one is potentially, like, there's so many ways to start a songwriting session, and I'd like to start, there's a few different, like, intention's a really big key word for me at the moment, hence, like, when Matt sent the feedback that the one of the big words that was in there was intention, and when he said it in the context that he said it, it really fucking stabbed me in the chest a little bit. You know, I mean, it's never good feeling that way, but I was able to handle it. But intention's been on my mind, and it's been on my mind in the starts of those sessions too, because I feel like, particularly after the last session, we could be a lot further along if we had lyrics before we went in there, or at least a guide for lyrical content. You know,
Sure.
That's one way of doing it. Intending to go in and do it how we used to do it is another way of approaching it. Like, our intention is to go in and we are going to come up with something on the spot, and that's it. You know, that's, you know, another way of doing it. And like, just the word intention is the name of the game, like we've spoken about. So I'd really like to walk into the next couple with really, like, another one is I'd love to do something up-tempo and dancey, particularly after listening to that Nile Rodgers
Switched on
Pop episode. You know, I'd like with the same, like with the start with the chorus thing, like the intention would be to write a dance tune. Like, not necessarily a disco track, but like a dance tune that has the hook straight up.
Yeah.
First fucking thing. No intro, nothing. Just like fucking bang. Freak out. You know. Which is basically that song. You know, and a lot of, he's said, like, if, there's that thing where he said if the bridges to get to the chorus and the existence of a song is to get to the hook, then why not put the hook first?
Yeah.
Or, you know, he says it's better, obviously, but I really like that idea of starting a songwriting session with that intention, because I'd love to. A lot of our stuff, well, not a lot of it. Some of it's quite laid back and chill, and I'd like to put something out that isn't that,
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I think I've made it, but that word intention needs to go through the whole process.
Yeah, I agree. And I think part of why I've been hammering so much of this stuff these last couple of weeks around really defining our goals, defining the processes a little bit more, has been to inform that. Because, even it's not even good enough for the process of making music to have the outcome be I've made music.
Yeah.
Like, it actually needs to tie into these bigger things.
Yeah.
And have the pyramid structured right, like the hierarchy of stuff that you're doing.
And there is people doing it too. I not like this session that I was telling you about that I did today with this guy that I'd never worked with before, hip hop artist. Really, like, I was cautious. I'm always cautious with hip hop artists because there's a certain type of person that hip hop attracts, and they're not always the nicest people. And this guy was amazing. Could sing, could rap, could write lyrics. And the great thing about his lyrics is they all tied into cultural ideas, and the way that he played with words also tied into cultural ideas. It was fucking clever, some of it. Which really surprised me. It's nice to go into a session and have that happen.
Well, interestingly, I think hip hop is the kind of genre area typically that does that best. Like when people talk about how hip hop hangs together, they talk about and what the fan base looks like. They refer to it as the culture, and I think that kind of hints at what's going on. There's a real understanding that this music tradition is heavily tied into culture in a way that other musical genres don't wear on their sleeve quite so much. But it's true of every genre. Country is tied into cultural ideas. Pop is tied into cultural ideas. Like all this stuff is so tightly knit into person and the tribe that you belong to.
Yeah.
But only in hip hop is it worn so close to the surface.
Yeah, and that was like the really, like, because like I said, don't interact with hip hop heaps because of that particular reason, because of my experiences in the past. And I mean, really, Tommy is probably the only rapper that I work with for the most part. So this was a really great experience, but it also kind of highlighted to me that some people get it. You know? And that's the first hurdle,
Yeah. Some people really intuit it as well. My view is that whenever there's and in fact, I'm not even going to preface it with my view, having already done that. But if you've got an artist that is producing good, in inverted commas, art, they have a process that they're following, because otherwise nothing would happen. So whether they acknowledge it or not, they are following a process, and whether they've arrived at that process through intuition or through deliberation, it exists, especially if they're doing it repeatedly. So in my mind, if it's reliant on a process, why would you not make it deliberate? Why would you rely on intuition to guide you over and over and over again? And not have you end up in the weeds, which is the natural course of following your intuition. And myriad historical examples to show as much. It's bizarre to me that we are just happy to accept that in music as being a completely valid way to go forward.
Well, and we've spent a lot of time playing with process.
Yeah, well, absolutely.
We were talking about that just before the stream. That it's really hard, like that it just seems that music is just one of those things where process doesn't seem to get built for whatever reason. Like, musicians do it, obviously, around their practice. Like, professional musicians are obviously doing something procedural to kind of get to the level of musicianship that they're at. But
and all the building blocks of music are in that same way. The fact that we have this 12-tone scale and all that's all come out of process.
Yeah. It's come out of figuring out how to wrap it up in a tight little bow. And there's people who react against that, the microtonalists, who like to make their new scales and find the notes in between, and people like Jacob Collier who play with the differences between tunings and things like that. So there are other systems that exist, but you're right, there is predominant systems, and orchestras are another system process that works, and 4-piece rock bands and DJ MC duos and whatever, there's all these kind of what would you call them, schools of music that exist.
Like templates.
Yeah. And I guess when we talk about hip hop, then that's interesting because there's already a kind of a precedent for that. Like before this session, because I knew we were coming in with fresh lyrics, I was also reading Action Bronson lyrics and Eminem lyrics and 50 Cent lyrics, just kind of getting my head around some of the greats and how they would have done it. The way that this guy's done it is in a kind of way. I'm not as familiar with UK hip hop as
got to listen to some Stormzy.
Stormzy, well, I've recorded Stormzy.
Some Dizzy Rascal. Bit old now.
Bit old, right? Wow. Yeah. But yeah, like I need to kind of, because he definitely comes from that angle. But it's interesting that those cultural, like that, it was in every, now that you've said it, I'm like, yeah, it's in basically that whole tradition, the poetic tradition of hip hop has these cultural references that are deeply ingrained into what they're talking about. There's there's metaphor, but it's not as hectic as, say, writing like singer-songwriter metaphor. It's very like on the surface, kind of.
Yeah, I mean, I think it depends on
who it is,
like the individual. Yeah. I know that I've certainly heard stuff that's extremely metaphorical in hip hop, but yeah, cool.
Well, do you have anything you want to talk about from this week other than the mix?
I think it just in terms of this stuff that we're doing, obviously we're still hitting some roadblocks in the streaming stuff, which is somewhat frustrating.
Oh yeah, we had a big one last week. Was that pre-last week's stream or post-last week? No, it was pre-last week's stream where you were trying to cut stuff up and it was snitching out.
I wasted 6 hours of my life, and I'm not happy about it. But that was, I don't even know where the problem lies in the end. I just ditched the whole session, and I'm going to start again. But that the next goal with this sort of stuff is to start cutting up some of this stream into shorts, which then feeds into our first real audience building push, which I'll be doing some point in the next 2 weeks.
Yep.
Starting to really ramp up and build a genuine audience, because with the full acknowledgement that we've done none of that, and as you would expect, we've got
no
functionally zero audience.
We've proven that if you just put stuff out there, no one will come.
Yeah, totally. It needs to. There's a very particular structure that you kind of need to follow.
Yeah, so don't listen to the people who say if you build it, they will come, because it's bullshit.
Well,
if you build it and then tell people, they might come.
Maybe. Who knows how to make people come?
And I'm not gonna continue that.
Not gonna touch that?
Not gonna touch it.
Well, you're certainly not gonna make people come if you don't touch it.
Well, we're gonna touch it in the next couple of weeks, aren't we?
We are. We're gonna do a lot of touching it.
We are gonna. Well, that's the point, isn't it? So we've got to cut up some clips, which will kind of. There's enough clips in like the last 2 that we've done that will give us enough content for a couple of weeks if we do a shorter day, roughly, I'd say.
Totally, yeah.
And that's enough because we're going to be releasing other auxiliary content alongside of
so where we'll end up is with 2 streams of content, one of which will be around effectively promoting this idea, this behind the scenes, DIY, music industry interaction stuff. And the other part will be a more straightforward, we have this song coming out, these are the ideas that underpin that track, and those 2 things will be kind of running in parallel.
Sir, I have a question.
You hit me.
This behind the scenes content, which is effectively this,
Mm-hmm.
are we releasing this on our main channel, or are we going to have a BTS channel and
Yeah.
confuse people?
Look, we were initially going to have a behind the scenes channel, but I feel like where we've ended up with the kind of meta narrative stuff that we were talking about last week, is that this is kind of integral to the story.
Mm-hmm.
That and especially with that first release is part of the DNA enough that it can just exist on our straight normal channel.
Yeah,
that would be different if that wasn't going to be part of the story, I think.
So do you think how do you feel about this, say, sitting next to an announcement for the release of
I don't think that
Only
we're going to
Yesterday?
really do traditional kind of announcement stuff. I say traditional. I think the way that we'll be talking about our tracks is never going to be as simple as, hey, look, we have a new track.
Yeah.
It will always be wrapped up in some kind of story, some kind of like extrinsic thing that is part of the wider experience of existing as a human in some way or shape or form.
Yep.
So even press release type stuff, it will be a case of, here's this thing happening in the world, here's a song that we've made that interacts with that idea, and that's kind of it. So the behind the scenes and the actual product are going to be more closely tied together than they might be with a different strategy. So, and not to put too fine a point on it, but it also simplifies my life to have less channels.
True. So when we talk about how this exists on the same platform, like, what does that, like, have you had any thought about what that might look like?
Yes. At the moment,
like?
I want to keep it quite loose because I don't want to be so prescriptive with how I approach it that I'm creating a rod for my own back and fall into a pattern that doesn't work and then scratch my head and have a kind of bad time for a couple months while I keep pushing down this road to verify that it doesn't work. Yeah. I'd much rather take a wider view and try a bunch of different things and have some of it land and some of it not land and use that as
a guide.
Yeah, because I feel like we are going to have enough data points to be able to start putting that sort of stuff together. Where, if I took a more narrow path, we'd still have lots of data points, but they'd all be much more precise.
Yeah.
And would just tell one story. You kind of need A/B to A/B test. You can't just go, I've got all option A and expect that you're going to be able to do some kind of A/B testing with it.
Yep. Do you that kind of brings me to my next question, which is around the goals that we set a couple of weeks ago, which you brought up this morning, which I'd conveniently forgotten about. Because I don't know, like, once I get focused on,
he doesn't listen.
I do listen.
He never listens.
You and Katie have got the same things to say about me, apparently. It's not that I don't listen, it's that it doesn't remain in here for very long. It just gets replaced by other stuff. I don't have a retention system. That's the problem. Yeah. I don't have any long-term memory. in one ear, out the other.
Sure.
So it's not that I don't listen.
What are you trying to say? What are you trying to ask?
I'm asking, we've set our goals, which are like the one that's really the biggest problem is the 1,000 streams by the 15th of July.
Yep, didn't seem that ambitious, 2-3 weeks ago when we said it, did it?
No. Well, it doesn't sound ambitious now, to be honest.
We'll be fine.
But it means getting this track out a lot quicker.
Yeah, so where that leaves us is that's 4 weeks away.
Yes.
And it's going to take about 2 weeks for this thing to get ingested.
Yeah, it's meant to be quicker than that now. Like, Spotify is like 1 to 5 days on 2 Lost, which is quick.
Well, that's great.
Yeah.
I love that. But the point is,
yes,
we need to get it up.
Yes.
Because we need to start pointing people to it.
Yeah.
And this is part of the chain now. So the view was that we'd do this kind of streaming thing, which would be an avenue to creating
smaller bits of content.
Yeah, that can be more readily pushed into relevant places.
Yeah.
But it kind of falls apart if there's no
Other
end
content.
point.
Yeah.
You know, if you view it like a marketing funnel,
Yep.
where you've got you're trying to catch people at the wide end, push them through to something. We've got this little thing in the middle that we've made, and we need to use that to create the stuff further up the funnel.
Yep.
But then what if they just hit these streams and go, well, what's the intention here? Am I supposed to consume 2 hours of content in a hit of just this one shot of two like generic white dudes talking to camera? We're not going to get a big result. People are going to bounce pretty quick.
Yeah.
This is supposed to be this little tiny section that exists, but people ultimately fall in the top of the funnel and jump down into listening to stuff, giving us money, or fulfilling any of the other goals, essentially. So, we've come at it at a way that's going to be efficient long term, but it's got this kind of ramp up part.
Yeah. And
but it's no use continuing it if we don't have that endpoint to actually drive people to.
Yeah, and this has been the real push of the last 2 weeks is to finish a track.
Yeah. So the view is that,
and it's been hard.
If we get it up by the end of the month, get the track up into the streaming platforms, then that gives us 2 weeks to push it hard.
Yeah.
It gives me basically 2 weeks from now to produce all the assets, because now we have effectively a finished track. And that means sending it out to people for remixes, planning and locking in an acoustic cover, blah, 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 blah.
Yeah.
All the things.
Yeah.
And starting to execute some of that stuff over the next 2 weeks, so that the 2 weeks after that can be pushing that out, pushing attention to it.
Well, yeah, and you just need to let me know what we're gonna do. I think the acoustic cover, we talked about what we were gonna do with that.
I'm so excited for that. I think there's so much room to do cool stuff.
Yeah. Need to find ourselves a Nokia phone.
Yeah.
Yeah. We've got an idea for a remix version, a DJ Shadow, Cross kind of. There was someone else that we had reference for that. DJ Shadow and someone else, I think you'd said, but I can't remember. Which is more, like a breakbeat thing, because the drums have really turned into this really cool breakbeat drum thing that sounds like it had been ripped off a record, unintentionally. So there's certainly some really cool things that can be done there. And so I'd like to play around with that idea, and I can just do that at home, or wherever I am on a particular day. Now that, by the end of today there'll be stems and a mastered track.
Yeah. Yeah. Weirdly enough, I think this one is probably going to have more spin-offs than,
say, the next one.
Yeah, because because it lends itself to it. It lends itself to having like an instrumental chill out version. It lends itself to having which is effectively just removing the vocal. I don't even know that the melody needs to be replaced. We'll see. It could be a case of some kind of piano replacement or something. It lends itself to having some kind of hip hop version. It lends itself to having like you say, a dance kind of version, like really well.
Yeah. Dance or not even like a. I remember the other artist. It's Mezzanine, not Mezzanine. What's the name of the band that does Mezzanine?
Oh,
Massive Attack.
Massive Attack.
Trip hop kind of thing.
Yeah, that's exactly who I mentioned.
Yeah. Massive Attack, DJ Shadow would, there's 90s kind of references. Which for me, it kind of fits in with this whole digging for samples thing, breakbeats and just referencing other music. And we've talked about this idea a lot about artists who have been in the game long enough, they start referencing themselves, and we're going to start right at the start referencing ourselves, which I think is kind of cool.
Well, I don't know. We need to kind of be careful to some degree, but yeah, maybe
I think
that's
the idea is that we would expand this outside of our own sphere, but we're also trying to figure out what these spin-off products might actually look like and how they might work.
Yeah. So the point is, there's lots of room to experiment with it, and we should have a pretty long tail pretty quick.
Yeah.
On this.
Yeah. All right, so we're working towards our goals. We've got social media assets to produce. I've got a mix to finish and stems to finish. That, like, literally after we finish this stream today, I'm jumping off and doing music.
Great.
And producing the stems and sending them to Gentleman Leader, and also sending them to me. And I'll also produce something out of it.
To Josh from Josh.
Yeah.
Please find attached.
Make remix, guy.
As per my previous email.
Please make remix. And then the next thing will be reaching out to Tommy and Brie and locking in a day where they can come in and
For acoustic vibes.
for an acoustic thing. And me figuring out the chords, since I'll probably end up playing it.
Yeah. Yeah, that's I am
I really
very
like that
excited
idea,
about
yeah.
an acoustic version, to be honest.
Yeah.
That's just done in the room as live. With just some cool bits of percussion, like get the actual phone out, the rotary phone. Get some chimes,
Man,
get some
You know what we should do? We should wire up that phone.
wire up the phone.
Yeah, as in, like, they can pick up the phone and that's the microphone.
Oh, 100% we
It's
should
got a
do.
microphone in it.
Yeah,
I don't know why we can't just use it.
we should definitely do that.
We should do that. It's a new idea.
Let's do it.
Yeah, and then then Brie can hand it to Tommy, and Tommy can hand it back to Brie. A genius.
We'll have a second phone.
I don't have a second one.
Oh, that's annoying.
I've only got one.
You might have to hit up some op shops.
I don't know if we will. There's enough room in the track for it to be handed over,
Yeah.
I think,
I mean, worst case scenario, we'll use the copper phone or something
for the
one of
other
them.
one. Yeah. Hold on, let me think.
which could also be very nice. Because there's BVs.
Yeah, it
and
does.
things.
Yeah, but
There is BVs.
yeah, but that can be another mic there. Do you know? What I
Okay.
mean?
All right.
The main vocal can be done on that. I think that's kind of cool.
It's-
It's TikTokable.
Oh my god.
What? You tell me to think about this stuff. You don't like the TikTokability?
I mean, I don't know. Maybe. I don't know what I'm doing.
Neither do I.
I'm figuring it out.
All right.
I've got my shoes on backwards.
Silly goose. Silly goose. All right.
Silly
I
goose.
think
All right. Just I just want
one more thing.
Yeah. So in terms of just for the first part of this, in terms of what happened in the
Oh yeah, what happened in the world this week,
yeah,
Simon? What happened in the world?
I mean, obviously we've done some pretty intensive iterations of this in previous episodes, and I'm gathering that maybe that has not been the best vibe.
What, by us not doing it again?
No, just in turn, because it takes a lot of to like. It's important that we engage in understanding what's happening in the wider industry and what's happening at the top echelons of that. But I don't know that we necessarily need to be going into it on stream in every time we
great
sit down.
details,
Yeah. So I don't know. I'm thinking maybe this section should just become kind of almost like a shout outs type thing.
Yeah. Well, I mean, what have you been listening to?
So what I haven't been listening to is the new Charlie XCX album.
Haven't.
I haven't. And I'm aware that I need to.
Yeah, she's out there.
But there have been two other amazing albums that I've been listening to that have both been out for a couple of weeks now.
Yeah.
One is Dancer, is the name of the band. 10 Songs I Hate About You, which has
Nice.
been so good.
Yeah.
What an album! It has such a Life Without Buildings vibe, which is one of my favorite albums ever. Any Other City by Life Without Buildings. So it's just it feels like this kind of spiritual successor that just is beautiful. Like the more of that type of music in the world, the better. And the other one is Rosie Tucker's Utopia Now, which is a stunning record. So both of those have been bloody lovely and have consumed my last week in just entirely. And they've been one of these. In fact, for both of them, there's been this nice like. The more I've listened to them, the more I've wanted to listen to them. So there's been a ramp up. It's not like I've listened and been like, oh, this is everything I want to listen to, and then it drops off just as quickly. There's been a real kind of, and it's been a while since I've had that with an album where it's kind of been almost like a slow burn, and and wanting to listen to it more and more and more.
I've been kind of going the other way, and I haven't been listening to new stuff.
Mm-hmm.
I've been listening. Well, I'm still digesting the Billie Eilish album because I really like it. And listening to content around that, like the podcast episode. Podcast? Yeah, the podcast episode that they talk about it. Just listening to it more. I haven't consumed any of the press that they've done, like specifically. I kind of been holding back watching the Zane Lowe interview, and really haven't, like, there's an article about her talking about how it's it was her sexual awakening record basically, and which I think might have been the Rolling Stones article or something like that, and I haven't read that yet. I'm interested to read it purely because I'm curious as to what she's talking about in that bit, or what her and Phineas have decided to do with that first part of the record, because certainly the first part of the record very much deals with those kind of ideas. So I'm interested to read about that, but I haven't done it yet. When it comes to listening, I've been listening back in time. I've never heard it before, but the Chainsmokers and Coldplay track, what's it called? Something. It's actually called something. Something Just Like You. Something Just Like That.
Oh yeah, sure.
Yeah, I don't know. Remember ever hearing it, and it just popped up in, how you can do the shuffle recommended thing on Spotify, which is kind of cool. Popped up in one of those over the week, and I was like, oh, that's a cool track.
Yeah, you did well to manage to not hear that. It's kind of...
I've probably heard it, but it just never resonated with me until now, really. Mainly because Coldplay for me has been because they were so popular, I was very against popular music back when they were popular. So
yeah, I don't know. I still kind of feel like Coldplay and they're not for me. Then that's fine.
Yeah, I don't know. I like a lot of Coldplay songs, but so I've been going back and listening to a bit of Coldplay. I've been back listening to the Shins because I'd forgotten about them. But that was via Broken Bells. Even though I listened to Broken Bells all the time, it was kind of that avenue and the conversations we'd been having around those bands. Chic, been back listening to Chic, because at one of the jobs I was on, the PA guy was playing Daft Punk on repeat, and like the Random Access Memories, they were playing it on repeat. So for like 3 hours, they just had the whole record looping.
So you heard a lot of Nile.
Not a Nile. So I was like, and Nile is really in the front of the media at the moment. Still,
he's done like this little like renaissance of Nile Rodgers has been fantastic.
Yeah. And his story, contrived or not, is pretty amazing. And after hearing that,
Switched on Pop
episode, I get confused between the two.
I mean, they both have pop in the name.
They do.
And your brain's not very big.
No,
not a lot of room in there.
Not a lot of room. Where he was talking about the way that he wrote Freak Out and and all that stuff is super interesting to me, and also the influences. So like when they start talking about their influences, I've been going back and listening to some of that stuff, and and then the people he's worked with, like Sister Sledge, and there's heaps of them, heaps of people. Madonna, did he work with Coldplay? No, I can't remember. Hold on, let me have a look. I'll tell you, because I've put some of these songs down. Dave Bowie, Diana Ross.
Yeah.
So these are some of the things that I've been listening to, and then the other thing, because I started watching BoJack Horseman again, and my partner doesn't believe me that I never skip the intro. Never. And she, every single time I don't skip the intro, she's never watched it.
It's a very good intro.
She's watching it with me. It's just like, it's such a great tune. And it's like when you listen to the Song Exploder episode around it, they talk about how it was edited down. And you can, like, it was a 4.5 minute track that was reduced to 55 seconds for the intro. And it doesn't even feel like 55 seconds to me. It feels a lot shorter. But for me, it's like a masterclass in reductionism and editing. Yeah. And reducing an idea to its constituent, like its essence.
Yeah, there's nothing wasted in it.
No, there is nothing. And it is, that intro is perfect. Yeah. And the original tune is amazing too. Don't get me wrong, but this is like vanilla
Yeah.
extract kind of
Mm.
shit, right?
Yeah, it's so economical.
Yeah.
Yeah, which is great. I've got all the time in the world for making things
And
more
that's
economical.
old mate from the Black Keys and his uncle, who's now sadly dead. But,
Yeah, right.
you know, who played the saxophone and the horns on that track and co-wrote it with him. So, and is an example of why it's really important just to keep writing as a musician, because that track came out of the back catalogue of written tracks
Yeah.
that
Mm.
that they didn't know what to do with, you know. So, pretty cool. So that's what I've been listening to. Not very now, but very cool.
Mm.
That's the world today.
It's like some kind of news program.
It is a news program on the
It
ABC.
Oh gosh. Yeah. Okay.
The midday current affairs program.
Yeah.
Anyway,
I should have known that.
do you want to sign off for our intermission, and then we'll be back to talk about meta narrative and stuff.
All right. I'm Simon. This is Josh.
I am.
We're in a band called Frights.
Frights.
There is links on the various thingies to the various thingies.
Frights.band is the website.
That's the band. That's where you can find all the other links to all the things.
Yep.
Give us a follow. Give us a like. Give us a star, a subscribe, a heart,
Whatever it is. Thumbs
little,
up.
a little paper aeroplane for a little sharesy.
Oh, yeah. Share it with your
How
friends.
about all the things?
Yep.
Do the push the buttons.
Push the button.
Not the unfollow button.
No, not
All the other buttons.
Yeah.
See what happens.
Yeah. Magic.
The magic of community,
Mm.
which we've
Slowly building.
well, we haven't started building it yet.
We have slowly started building
There's-
it. We have 69 people on Twitter.
69 bots on Twitter.
Yeah.
If you're one of those bots, give us a little shout out.
Yep. Tell your bot friends.
Yes, tell your bot friends. Alert the wider botnet to
Yeah.
our existence.
Yeah. All right. We'll be back in a moment.
Bye.
Bye.
Hello.
We're back.
We're back. Hello.
Um,
That's Josh. I'm Simon. We're in a band.
Yes.
And we're streaming about it. So, we've just come back from the first part of our chat, which is a bit of a fireside conversation about what's happening immediately in the band.
Mm-hmm.
And we are now going into section 2, which is more about general large concepts. In this case, we're going to be talking about social media for artists, part 2.
Yes.
Last week we set some big macro sort of goals, or rather, big macro kind of strategy points related to the goals that we'd set for ourselves and the general themes of what we're trying to interact with in general as a band,
Mm-hmm.
as artists making art and putting it out into the world. Now, this week, we're going to dive a little deeper onto that. So, just to read my little recap notes here, because I've gone to the trouble of writing them, may as well interact with them. The last week we spoke about the goal of socials as a way to bridge the gap between the story we're trying to tell and wider concept happening in the world and people's lives. So social media gives us a great surface area to do that.
Mm-hmm.
Now, typically, the social media approach will be hammering lifestyle content, gimmicks, trends, this sort of stuff, as well as produce content, actual music, film clips, etc. Now, that's fine, and it can work, but we know that we want to do stuff that's a little bit more intentional and a little bit more valuable to audiences. It's not so much a me kind of situation. It's a way for us to indulge in fun, interesting things that work in a deliberate way toward the goals that we've set for ourselves and build an audience that actually cares beyond just, hey, this is cool.
Mm-hmm.
So now what we did last week was a big brainstorm on the board, kind of displaying how to pull some of that stuff out and do those deliberate steps in a brainstorm context. Now we're going to look at how that can be organized down,
Mm-hmm.
and start thinking about how to come at it from other directions. So having a look at how to come at it from an audience definition perspective, and how to come at it from lost my train of thought. That's fun. Sorry, and how to use it to generate very specific assets so that you can have almost like a to-do list fall out the back of it.
Which is important with this big, huge picture stuff because, I mean, we've talked about it a number of times on this stream that it's so overwhelming the amount of work you have to do as a solo DIYer when it comes to having a sustained career as an artist. You know, I've watched so many people do this and with various outcomes and just burn themselves out time and time again, you know. Or we're coming at it quite pragmatically and we're starting to feel the burn now, you know. And we're kind of doing two things at once in a lot of ways, maybe more.
But that's probably the normal experience.
Yeah.
We're lucky enough to have both come from careers where there's a lot of planning and a lot of an understanding of the industry machinations.
Mm-hmm.
So, you know, we're taking these slow, planned, deliberate steps to make sure that each thing that we're doing is going to have this kind of layered effect.
Yeah. You're a good influence on me because that's how I've worked in the past. I mean, I have in other jobs, but not ever in artistry.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Whereas I think it's super important in the artistry specifically to have that pragmatic approach.
Yeah, well, if you're not pragmatic, you're not going to get the jobs done, are you? You know.
Yeah.
And to that, like particularly as a creative and as an artist, you also are fighting this battle against yourself and your own putting yourself out there, you know. And
are you?
Well, that's what's always held me back is the emotional problems around being a creative person.
Which are? Let's dig into that.
Well,
Lie down on the couch.
It's quite vulnerable in a lot of cases.
Sure.
You know, I think particularly when you write your own stuff or are singing or anything like that, that's why people like doing it together. You know, I think that's why bands exist in a lot of ways. It's not just because of the format; it's because there's a support network there who gets it. You know, whereas doing the solo thing, which is a lot easier organisationally, is you kind of offset that camaraderie against it, and that's camaraderie that helps you through the process. You know, putting yourself out there to be effectively ridiculed by a broader population, broader public, that's been something that I've fought against, which is what I've found really great in the way that we're doing things, because we're coming at it from a pragmatic angle, and I can kind of put those emotions to bed and actually focus on these goals that then mean that my emotional self doesn't get in the way of my logical self. They never agree on anything, those two. Yep. So if you've got like a logical list, you know, like we're talking about with social media assets, suddenly it's a way less daunting project or process to maintain the burn. Yeah.
Well, yeah, great. Well, let's dive into it. I just want to quickly note that I feel like the right way to come to that, though, is to go in that direction, right? Like you start big and you become more and more granular. Yeah. So that's what we're going to do. So going from the Blackboard version that was there last week, I have constructed a more logically organized version of that effectively, using Notion, which is my electronic brain of choice.
I'm going to switch to now and also add a camera.
Oh, yeah, do that. Add a camera.
Yeah, video capture device.
Yeah.
Watch this, like, overwhelm everything. There we go.
Hey, there you go.
It'll make us little.
Okay. Now, could you do me one more favor? And on the Notion view, can you just hit Command minus?
Command minus.
Yeah, just zoom out slightly.
Yeah, okay, hold on. Bear with me, bud. Let's see if we can make this keyboard do its thing.
Nah. Oh, there we go. Hey, look, one more. Cool. So, let's... I'm
going to bring this up on here too. Where would I find this document?
Under... It's what's called social planning or socials planning, if you want to just search for it.
Oh, yeah, probably. That might be easier, wouldn't it?
Little Command P situation. Or use the search thing, whatever.
Got it. Cool. I just want it on my computer
Cool.
so I can kind of see it too.
All right. So, what I've laid out here, hopefully, if you're playing along at home, you can read the titles. And it's not too small, but effectively what I've done here is what we'd had in the brainstorm before was we would effectively drawing out this second column, what is called cultural moments / life experiences, because that's really the most important part. That's what people are going to connect with in an immediate way. And then when I was laying it out on the Blackboard, I spoke about these kind of overlaid ideas. And the overlaid ideas were our goals and the wider theme. So in this case, we have these themes that exist as things that we want to be doing in the band. So these are specific kind of vibes, I guess, or specific or I get it's weird because it's like at least the way I've laid it out, and you know we're in experimental territory here. So what I've done with the themes is they're either specific vibe things. So that's something like whimsy, or being nerdy, or like looking at music history, or they're more general ideas that can be kind of that we're going to be revisiting a lot.
Mm-hmm.
So those exist as themes. So in this case, the idea of failure, the idea of chasing a dream, those exist as themes here rather than cultural moments, life experiences. They could exist in those, but it's kind of I'm making a judgment call about whether they fit into one or the other.
Mm-hmm.
So, pardon me. I've got these other columns that are kind of filled out to greater or lesser extents. So does this relate to a specific song, or is it general? Which goal areas does it fit in relation to? Audience relevance, which we're going to dive into as a major part of what we're about to talk about. A quality measure. This is something that I do a lot when I'm laying stuff out in Notion, is I have a column that is related to quality so that you can quickly assign a quality level to something, and then if it can fall into the kind of back catalog quite quickly. If it's an okay idea, but it's not really lighting anyone up, then you set up a view that only shows the 3 stars and above or 4 stars and above options, and those things can still exist. You've documented them, but they can fall by the wayside and be fine. I've got a date column in here, which is useful for things that have dates, and we can start to assign more granular deadlines to things as things develop. But right now, they're mostly going to remain empty. And then production requirements. So this is going to be useful, again, as part of the planning. Some of these ideas will require us to make music, which, if we're pressed for time among other music making commitments, we can be a little bit more proactive about choosing what and when to chase.
Mm-hmm.
The things that I've currently got in there is music, collaboration, research, images, money, and community.
Mm-hmm.
So what things are going to be hinged on for this thing to be successful? So sometimes it's going to require community engagement. Sometimes it's going to require an artistic collaboration. Sometimes it's image making, which video would fall into as well. If it's like, let's do a film clip, for example, which is going to be something that kind of has to be made to at least something that's like a 30-second clip to exist on Spotify, to exist in as major posts on Instagram and things like that. So that's
Piano Day. I always forget about Piano Day.
Well, I just put it in there because it was something that had come up before, and was a good reason to include a date with something.
It's true.
And I've started filling out some stuff. Now, we've got this section in the middle which doesn't have anything in it, which I'm just going to quickly run through and delete because I was just putting them in to make sure that I had...
something.
Well, just as I was putting in the list of like cultural moments, it was useful to just have them as like one-liners, but not useful at the moment. So what I wanted to look at here was, now to me, when I look at this, I find this a lot more overwhelming than the brainstorm on the chalkboard. This looks like a big wall of like,
info.
Yeah. But at the same time, it is more organized than a brainstorm is.
Yep.
And growing it out and becoming more granular from this is easier.
Yeah.
So,
we've demonstrated that before not in previous videos of Frights, but in the way that we used to run the business.
Yeah.
And we know that it was more organized and things didn't get lost as often.
Yeah. I mean, this is essentially a job tracker.
Yeah.
And yeah, anyone who knows me knows that I need to track tasks, otherwise they do not get done.
Yeah,
they
and
fall off into the ether.
Yeah, and I'm exactly the same. And I've found this kind of documentation, though irritating sometimes, incredibly helpful in an efficiency sense.
Well, because it ends up doing this weird thing where it ends up cracking the whip on you, where you look at it and you pull it up for the day and go, crap. here's all the stuff I didn't do yesterday that I had to do because the stuff I need to do today is reliant on having done that stuff yesterday. So I guess I better pull my finger out and do it.
Yeah.
And it's so useful, even if it is a hard taskmaster. So what I've done here is essentially take the brainstorm from the other day and reformat it into this.
Yep.
And I've added a few new little things just as they've popped up into my head. We can keep adding to this until the cows come home. It is actually so easy to grow once you see it in this format. And these themes are things that are important to us. You know, whimsy, being nerdy, music history.
Yeah, these
DIY
are the things that we talked about in the macro goal setting.
But
it's important to us.
But this could just as easily, like, basically it's a list of what you're interested in. You know, you could make it as as weird and wonderful and niche as you like. You could have
unicorns,
Smurfs.
Whatever.
It could be, if you're a band that is particularly like closely tied to queer culture, that could be part of it. If you're a band that's closely tied to a straight up and down pop music presentation, there's heaps of content in there.
Or if you're a metal band who likes pirates, you know, pirate metal.
The theme
Dwarves.
stuff, going out clubbing, like club culture, festival culture, bush stuffs, all this sort of stuff.
LSD.
Or if you're trying to do kind of like an everyman country type thing, there's heaps of stuff there around like family, around these icons of that space, trucks and rural life and the being down at the pub and all that kind of stuff totally fits in here.
Yeah.
I had a funny experience just the other day. On Friday, local band Hockey Dad were releasing. They were doing a new album launch, and one of the things that I'd spoken about to other bands in that similar kind of space, surf rock, pub rock ish, walking that line space, was if going out and having beers and being in a pub type setting is something that's important to your audience, that's something that you've identified as the audience that you've cultivated finding important. A really great move that you can consider is approaching a local brewery and like a craft beer place, which we have heaps of in Wollongong, and saying to them, if we commission some artwork and provide that to you for some tinnies, would you sit with us for over the process of a couple of weeks, and we put together a particular brew and produce it up and produce a couple thousand cans, and they as a brewery will get access to your audience because you're sharing all this content with them. You can come in with your phones and document what that process looks like of actually putting a beer together, and exploring the whole brewing process and what options and choices you have to make, and what it looks like to make choices that are palatable to you in that context. So they get a bit of like education, and you get access to their audience as well, which you know has a crossover because you've identified that the audience that you have is interested in that sort of thing. And so I'd spoken about this exact process of like to other bands and said, like, I don't understand why more bands aren't doing this. Why, when you're doing an album release, you don't also have a beer release going along with it for so many of our bands in Wollongong.
Just everywhere. I remember we've spoken to quite a few of the artists that we had coming through in the last 2 years about this idea, and nothing shook out. But
yeah, and then anyway, my point was, Hockey Dad album release party, Seeker Brewing. They've got a Windang lager, you know, and it's all hockey dadded up, and it looks amazing, and it fits the visual aesthetic perfectly. It fits the kind of overall tone and the cultural context of the people who are interested in listening to their music, and it's fun. It's interesting. It ticks literally all the boxes, and you have your launch party at the brewery.
Win-win-win.
It makes perfect sense across the board. Yeah. And, you know, the amount of effort that you have to go to is really minimal. way less than filming a film clip, way less than even producing like album artwork. It's easier than that.
Plus, you make friends.
Plus, you make friends, which translates into following.
Yeah.
Which translates into champions for your music.
Which translates into sustainability in your career.
Well, yeah.
Hopefully.
Not to put too fine a point on it, but yes.
Yeah.
So there was that, that happened this week, and I thought, there's one of my classic examples that I've been using of a thing that people should be doing to generate meaningful social media content. Writ large, there's someone. It was really validating because it had gone from just this kind of idea of that I'd pulled out of just thinking through the process into someone having actually done it. But ironically, of course, not someone that I'd told to do it.
Well, it's interesting because it's been done before in many different circumstances.
Yeah, none of this is unique.
No, Young Henry's did a UMI beer and Midnight Oil beer, and there's like heaps of examples of it.
Yeah,
they're a big brewery, mind you, but still.
Well, exactly.
They weren't at the time.
There are so many craft breweries around that are happy to look for excuses to build their audience. They're in exactly the same space, just in a different industry.
Yeah.
And that's what you're kind of looking for, right? Is to share audiences and have those network effects kick in of I have 1,000 followers, you have 1,000 followers. Let's do something to commingle our followers. And then you both end up with 1,200 followers.
Yeah.
And you do that to the next person and the next person. And before you know it, you have a large audience because you've shared that audience around with people that have similar sized audiences, and you've pulled each other up by creating these connections across disciplines that are using this kind of underlying set of themes that you've identified as the guidance for that. So you can be deliberate about who your audience is. It's not just, I make this stuff and whoever happens to listen listens. It becomes so much more toothy and deliberate and sticky as a result.
Careful.
Careful. Build it and they'll come.
Yeah. Yeah.
So we've got there's a very straightforward way to build this stuff out. You either you keep listing things in that second column of these cultural things that are happening in the wider world, or life experiences that are going to be relevant to your audience, and build out the rest of the columns from that. Or you go, well, like the themes that we want to hit, this one doesn't have that many items, so you put a new line in and you type that theme in, and then you go, well, how do I build out from that? And then everything goes from there. You fill in the other columns essentially.
I guess you could do that from the specific song point of view as well.
Absolutely. So there's a column there for specific songs. At the moment, I've only written in for Only Yesterday, but it can be something like this one that's all question marks, right? So I've gone, well, I think we should probably do a cover that's related to Only Yesterday. So that can be, it could be just the acoustic version of Only Yesterday that we've spoken about, but it could also be that we know we came into writing Only Yesterday with some intention around some songs that we wanted to take some reference and influence from. So why not, as part of this release, go, this was one of the songs that we found really interesting and helped us shape the idea for this song sonically. Now we do a cover of it.
Yeah.
So you're putting something out into the world that, because that song is significant, has a built-in audience, and it also allows you to, in a relevant way, push the people listening to that to your music. It's not just a cover for the sake of doing a cover. It's a cover that you can build some story into quickly. It's not a deep story, but it's a story that says, in my creative practice,
this is how I'm connected to the broader world.
Yeah. And if you've got a little anecdote that you can tell in 10 seconds before you launch into the 30-second little snippet of cover that you're going to make, all the better. This song got me through some really hard times. I wanted to have that same effect with other people, so I used it as a launching point to write my song. You can check that out here. I hope you enjoy my little cover of that song, because now it's coming full circle, Yeah. That's all it takes, is you do a better version of that little spiel, and that makes it meaningful. You've just done some meaning making. Congratulations. So in this case, I didn't have that handy. I didn't open up my new tab and have a look at the songs that we were sonically thinking about at the time. But let's pick a song. Let's do a cover of it.
That's what I was going to ask, if we can do some of this for Only Yesterday, given the fact that we are about to do this, and then we can get on to who Brianna and Luke are.
And the others. They are two of many of six at the moment, but we'll do more.
All right. So, the first thing is the cover, right? Let me go and hunt down the original little thing that we did for this.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, that is the wrong thing. I don't want to be typing with that keyboard.
It'll be in the job tracker.
I know it will be. The old job tracker. I don't need that keyboard. Right now, I need this keyboard. All right. So, there it is.
Oh.
So
remix.
So we had some of these on the playlist. Bubblegum by Clario. How do you say it? Clario? I don't know.
Claro.
Okay, thank you. Word Star Money by Joji and Space Song by Beach House. They are the three songs that are on our initial kind of influence sheet.
So I could totally hear Beach House. I could hear that as a cover.
Mm-hmm.
I'm just gonna write down.
We also had built out a playlist as part of,
Well, we'll come to that because playlisting is further down on the list.
I know.
All right.
No, but I'm saying there are other potential covers. But
there is.
I reckon any of those three would be good options.
Yeah, okay. So I'm just going to jot them down in here. So one of the things, in fact, can you pass me the mouse for a moment?
Sure.
I'm just going to demonstrate. Show, don't tell.
Oh.
So I obviously love Notion.
Obviously.
I have little love heart emojis.
He should have a bloody endorsement the way that this guy pushes Notion.
We're not sponsored.
We're not sponsored. We also don't have an audience, so why would anyone sponsor us?
That's right. Well,
soon.
That's ambitious. In the mid future, midterm future.
It'll be fine.
Anyway, the point is,
yes,
we can have this little this line item and then open it out and then just write some notes in it, and it becomes its own little page.
Yep.
With all the details baked in up here.
I
love it. So, what were hit me with those songs again?
I think they exist somewhere already.
I'm sure it does.
Can I?
We wrote a list out of in the goals.
Yeah, I've got it here.
Just
give me a sec. Only Yesterday's, and so the songs that we have. Possible. Where did the playlist go? I am blind. It was in this list because I stole it from here. Oh, here. I'm just gonna do this.
You're just gonna paste it in.
Yeah.
Cool.
To save us all the trouble. Where are you? Song. In the cover one.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. The one you're in. Good.
So they are the songs that we.
Yeah.
Had initial so these are the three that were on the original thing, which I'm going to move to the top and give them their own space because they were the initial kind of options, right? And I think it would be cool to kind of play with those, rather than ones that below the line that fit into the playlisting component of this. The top ones are more of the initial. And for me personally, I don't know those songs as well, so it's a lot easier for me to play with covers.
Yeah, sure.
And I think it'd be cool to do something like that with Brie and Tommy, very quickly in the same day that we would do the self cover.
Yeah, the acoustic version.
Yeah.
So, yeah, totally. So I think we can see a way in for that. Covers obviously have a very specific place in social media, and especially for musicians. And we could it's a good opportunity to just dive in on a chorus. We're not recording this specific cover necessarily to put out into the world, at least not at this stage. Maybe later, if it gets a super good response or something, we can come back and do it again. But we literally need 15, 20, 30 seconds max. So it's dive into the chorus, dive into something with the hook, have that 5 second, 10 second intro, and you're done. It doesn't need to be super well mixed.
And it's not inauthentic to do it that way. I think one of the things that I personally get hung up on is that I need to produce an entire cover, you know, and maybe
it feels
we
contrived too, like to just go, oh well, I'm putting this music out that's not mine to try to generate an audience to just get halo effect off this thing.
Yeah.
Whereas if you have that compelling story to tell or some kind of actual connection that you can share, this is the song I listened to immediately before I wrote this song. That's interesting. You know, that says that creates that connection much more strongly and readily.
Yeah.
Right.
So do you want to flesh out the rest of these things for this particular line? Cultural moment, life experience.
Oh, sure. So yeah, with this, it's more that like it's I guess like just it is social media meta, because it's kind of a if you're telling that story, like you're addressing the audience directly. So it does have that kind of about it. It probably also fits into like it's not a neat fit into any of the others in terms of cultural moments, unless that specific song also it speaks to a specific thing.
Yep.
It really is just like social media meta.
I'm just going to move these to the top, so they're all in the one place. Just for my brain at this point in time.
Yeah, fair enough.
And the theme is cover. The goal area is audience, I guess.
So that's right. So in our goal area,
do you have any drop downs things for that yet?
Sorry, I've just typed with the wrong keyboard.
Yeah. Do it. I think if you just
too many, and you're gonna drive.
I'll drive.
Yeah, cool.
Yeah.
Okay.
I'll take us back to this boy right here.
Cool. So the goal area. Sorry, I'm just going to change this quickly because I had set up different properties because what I wanted to do was there we go. So hang on. Great. So now goal area is actually a drop down from a different database. So I've logged the goals in a similar table to this one so that we can be more.
Yeah.
We can start getting weird.
And those are get more streams, do touring, support big artists on tour, which is not really one of our goals. Get famous, build profile. Well, I guess, get management representation, get followers on social media, support self financially, do interesting things, create collabs, and be seen as an expert. I think that we can probably say that this serves to get more streams. It serves to build profile. It serves to get followers on social media and to do creative things. I think that those are the things that it serves.
Yeah, I think that's probably about right.
Yeah.
I'm just going to... Sorry, I'm just tweaking things as we go here to make them...
Yeah, I mean, this is part of the process,
Yeah. Cool. All right.
I've just made it a bit smaller on the thing. And I know that people can see it because I checked.
Oh.
So don't say anything.
Cool.
We'll skip over the audience relevance thing because we'll come back to that.
Yeah, quality, I'm going to give this like a 4-star, I think.
Okay. And date. So we have actually got 2 lines for this cover, to be honest, because there's the self cover as well. So this is the acoustic version, I guess, which we don't have there.
So we're going to have to fill in a date at some point. Do you want to set a nominal date for like the 1st of July.
Yeah. Let's put in 2 weeks from now, because realistically we should be able to do 2 of these in one day. It'll be me, Tommy, and Bree, and we'll just sit down on a day and smash out 2.
Cool.
Yeah. Because they are the main collaborators with this track, and I think they're the ones that are going to be the ones that we do it with. Sick. All right, make that date the same for the acoustic version. We've got the music. That's music, production requirements, music and images. Music and images for both of them.
Mm-hmm.
That's the idea, right?
Yeah, I think so. I mean, these will be visually recorded things. We'll do over the other side.
Get more streams.
Or we could do them here, actually.
Well, is the cover... It depends on how we do the cover. Are we intending to do a whole tune, potentially?
No. I don't think we should. I think
we should remove get streams from that, because that's not part of it.
Yeah.
Of the
It's like a second, like the trouble with some of this stuff is that like they will all exist there to some extent, but we're really looking at like the central ones. Because having a cover that pushes people to that end goal of here we are on Spotify, yes, it will get more streams, but it'll be minor. Pardon me.
So you've got cultural moment, life. What's it? Life experience. Again, this fits into social media meta. And the quality is probably a bit higher, I'd imagine. For do you reckon it's higher or?
I reckon it's 5. Yeah, because it's critical that we do it.
Yeah. Yeah, I think
it's the cover is less critical.
Less critical. Yeah. Cool. We've got the next piece of music content that we've talked about doing with this, and that is the. I've been struggling to find a name for what you'd call this, but like I guess hip hop collaboration, or like.
Yeah.
Like because you'd say dance remix, or you could say hip hop remix. We could say that.
Yeah, I suppose that is what it is. It's a remix. It's using our track as the skeleton.
Yeah, and then
for a hip hop track to be draped over.
And this is dance, or this isn't really dance. What would you call the Massive Attack? I guess it would be
trip hop.
Trip hop, yeah. Trip hop. Because I definitely think the DJ Shadow idea fits into there. Inspired by Massive Attack and DJ Shadow. Cool. And the hip hop collab with Gentleman Leader. And at the moment we're just doing this with friends or ourselves as a demonstration of what we're trying to do. This is, what would you call this? Fun and interesting, I'd say this falls into for me. I guess both of these do. This is only yesterday's. I'm obviously doing this based on this. It's definitely get more streams, build profile, social media, interesting. Oop, what did I just click that? Yeah, that's right. I did this. No, I didn't. That's support ourselves financially. It's basically the same thing as that. And so is that. I probably would put that at maybe 4 and that at 4 as well. And I don't have dates on these yet. But they both should be quite quick. Mm-hmm. I think, because they're derivative of the content. Let's give them a week further than the first, because they can come out later in the process and something like that. You know.
Yeah, we're starting to steer away from socials planning and more into like release planning.
Well, yeah.
So it might be that this has to change slightly.
Yeah. Okay. I'm just thinking of assets around what I'd like to produce for this.
There is overlap.
What's the? Yeah, go on. Sorry.
Go on.
I was going to say the playlisting has got to do with social media meta as well, right?
Yes, it is also. Well, I guess it is basic. There's a lot of this that is social media meta,
Yeah.
which is because I mean we're kind of tackling at this point stuff that is very related to the actual release.
Yeah.
Stuff. So a lot of it is going to be social media meta, but it is also. Yeah, it basically is social media meta.
Yeah. Sorry, I'm just doing
That's
the others while I'm going.
Yeah, it's cool.
So the playlisting thing would just be what?
Right. So the way the playlisting is going to work is essentially
People are sort of looking through the window at us.
interesting.
Interesting. All right.
So the now we have our
Studio audience.
our studio audience is larger than our online audience.
We're animals at a zoo. Look at the podcasters.
Look at the podcasters doing podcasting.
I felt like I was in, I don't know, a Disney movie or something just then in a museum display.
Cute.
Yeah.
So anyway, that's totally
Playlists.
derailed me. Oh, playlists.
So
Okay,
where
so
does
the way
this
the
fit into our
playlists
goals?
basically it's get more streams.
Yeah.
That's all it is. This is
Because we put our song at the top, and then
within the top one or two.
Yep.
But effectively, what we're going to look to do for the playlisting will be we've written a list of songs, and we'll write more into it. That is a big long list of songs that are sonically related to different components. So songs that have the same sort of vibe, lyrically, or the way the vocals are delivered, or that have an overall texture that's similar, conceptually have come out of similar places. And we'll take each of those angles and songs that fit into those relationships and put them on just little playlists that are 10, 12 songs long, and give them each titles, give them each little descriptions, and then effectively hand them off to our friends and say, hey, can you hop on Spotify for 5 minutes, put together this playlist that has our song in it as well as a bunch of other songs, give it this title, give it the thing, and then just save it. Or if you feel like posting about it on your socials, you can do that too. We'd appreciate it.
Do we do it on our own or no?
No, we're effectively
Out.
basically we're giving other people social content to post.
Yeah.
We produce the assets. We're doing the hard work. We're asking them for 5 minutes of their time because they like us and they're our friends.
Yeah.
And we do that for 20, 30, 40 people. And then the next time we do a release, we do it with 40 different people. And then the next time we do it with 40 people that are somewhere between the two or whatever. But we've all got friends. We've all got friends that will be happy to spend 5 minutes of their time doing this for us, especially if we call them up and literally walk them through it.
Yep.
Make them do it. And
do this for me now.
Ooh. Yeah, they won't do it if you ask them like that.
Why not?
Wow. Do you need a lozenge?
No, I'm fine. That's my throat voice. My venom, so to speak.
Wow.
Venom.
So when's that going to show up on a track?
Sometime.
I hope not.
Tommy's got the deep voice down. I don't need to do it. That's me playing around with throat singing. Because, nerd.
Okay.
June.
Oh, God.
But it was before June, to be fair. I was into throat singing 12 years ago, so.
I see.
It's hard.
Is that the same as like Tibetan throat singing?
Yeah, there's a whole heap of
There's a whole bunch of different ones?
Yeah.
Right.
A lot of cold countries.
Okay.
Because they used to sing into each other's mouths. Like some of the Inuit tribes, they transmit their oral histories. And because they were, minus 40, and living in effectively, like snow caves, igloos if you want to be, inappropriate about it, but snow caves. They'd huddle together and communicate with each other in that way, and blowing breath on each other was a calming thing and a social thing that some of those traditions did. Some of those tribal people did, and throat singing kind of was part of that to keep each other warm. Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah, it's weird. It's interesting. So musical tradition out of necessity and comfort.
Mm.
Yeah, it's very nice.
Does it have to be throaty though?
Well,
To do that, to achieve.
there was the only instrument they really had was their voice. There was the occasional drum, but these were peoples who lived in, the Arctic Circle.
Yeah.
There wasn't really trees. There wasn't.
Bang two seal bones together.
Maybe they did have that kind of stuff, but again, it's hard evidence to find that kind of stuff. What they do have is the vocal traditions of those people, and so you've got Tibetan, you've got the kind of northern Canadian tribes, you've got Tuvan, which is kind of that same region, Tibet, like that whole kind of Himalayas region that wraps around China. Western parts of China also have those traditions. There are traditions that kind of go into the Middle East as well, into the warmer parts that use similar ideas. Yeah.
Wild.
The steppes of Mongolia and Afghanistan. Yeah, all those areas. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. Anyway, you learn something.
You live and learn.
Yeah. We're off topic.
We're way off topic.
But the playlisting kind of fits into those kind of crossover cultural things, because it's not just what we've done with the track, it's how it exists in broader cultural contexts. Yeah. And these playlisting things work for not just the initial track, so potentially the cover of the other song that we're doing on social media that is gaining us followers on social media wouldn't necessarily find its way onto the streaming platforms, but the acoustic version will, and the hip-hop collaboration will, and the remix, like the trip-hop inspired remix will.
Yeah, and each of those
Will
gives
have
us
their
greater
own-
surface area to exist on playlists.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that's cool.
Yeah. And also the part of what makes collaboration.
Plus it's fun.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But it's also part of what makes collaboration great
Yep.
in these cases, because you can, if someone is producing hip hop content or trip hop content or whatever, and they're working with us, they're going to have a vastly different audience to us. So allowing that kind of cross-contamination, cross-population of audiences through genre mechanisms is something that's not always easy to achieve if you've got this very consolidated sonic vision about what your band is doing. But once you break that through these, allowing your song to be sampled, allowing it to be remixed, doing an acoustic version, to spread that out, you suddenly can sit alongside all this other music that you otherwise wouldn't, and have access to these people's audiences that again you otherwise wouldn't, because why would they share it with their audience? It doesn't fit in, but you've made it fit in. And so now it can go out to all these other audiences.
Yep.
And it just becomes awareness.
Yep.
You're just becoming more and more aware.
Yep.
Cool.
Well, I think we can move on to that. We don't need to put a date on that right now, but we will at some point. But let's move on to, we've got this kind of, I've just added another one that I'd been thinking about.
Yeah.
But is relevant to every track that we put out. In a way to build audience and allow kind of almost the potential for viral audience building around stems, releasing stems for people to interact with.
Yeah, I'm very open to this. I'd be happy to just have all the stems that we produce go out and exist out in the world.
Yeah.
I'm so open to that.
Yeah.
I don't think there's a risk in doing that.
Oh, there's no risk. I just... like I like the way that Grimes has come to this particular sharing of her IP effectively. With this whole AI thing that everyone's, that is in the main, kind of in vogue in the lexicon, the cultural lexicon currently.
In fact, that's a cultural moment right there.
Yeah,
that we can add to this list.
Oh,
This rise of AI.
Something that she did that I found really interesting was she really early on created a voice model of her own voice and shared it with her fans.
Yeah.
And said that if anyone would like to use her voice on any of their tracks, they can. And the only thing she stipulated was that they were to cut her in for 50% of the royalty. And now, for me, there's a real, like, if we were to put one of the things here that has a goal for us is support self financially and interesting collaboration, right? Releasing the stems doesn't really do, anything else but like other than it kind of builds, it shows that we're happy to let people in on our process, but it also gives people the opportunity to produce content for us, without us actually asking them to. And that doesn't mean shit. It could mean that we end up with a whole heap of garbage out there, which, with the Grimes thing is quite, you can go and look it all up. It's crazy, some of the stuff that exists. Though there are a couple that have made it to high streaming numbers. I can't remember the name of the most prevalent one, but it was played on the radio and stuff, and you suddenly become a collaborator, as a result, without doing anything except for providing material for people to collaborate with, which I think is kind of cool. And so I'm really open to it, but I'd have something attached to it like what Grimes has attached to her voice, which is a cut-in of some sort.
Yeah, very hard to enforce.
It's hard to enforce until it ends up doing well. And then you have plenty of avenues to enforce it. And we talked about this, I think we talked about it, about trust and trusting an audience. Maybe it's not. Maybe it was on the podcast. It was on the New York Times podcast.
Okay.
They were talking about, audiences are inherently not trustworthy with kind of that kind of thing. So if you give out your stems, there is a expectation that they're going to be misused, just like they might not be. Like someone who really gives a shit about what they're doing and understands what it looks like to collaborate might reach out and go, I'm going to use these. I'll write down these, these are the details we're going to write down, to cut us in. Do you know what I mean? And certainly things that end up with radio play would have to exist at that level.
Mm-hmm.
Something that ends up on SoundCloud, not so much.
Yeah.
But also those kinds of things, like we can talk about Shouse, and that track of theirs that blew up 4 years later. Those kinds of stems existing out in the world allow these slow burn things to exist and happen.
Old Town Road's another great example.
Yeah.
Of that. It had these 9 Inch Nails stems from like 2005 or something that were released in the same way. These kind of free to use, but free to use.
Yeah, free to use.
But also having rights attached to them.
Yeah.
Which means that this stuff goes up on SoundCloud or whatever, and it just goes up. And then suddenly it's, that banjo sample sounds mighty familiar now that it's got radio play.
Yeah.
Better get that sorted out.
Yeah. You can release them, we would release them as a website download probably, where there's an agreement to a set of terms and conditions, and of which one of them is a cut-in on the royalty of at least 50%, something like that. And like 50% of the publishing as well, and we'll see what happens. That would be interesting to see what happens.
Yeah.
Who knows?
Who knows?
But it's low touch too. That's the great thing about it.
Yeah.
You know, and I think that's really cool because you can put them out in the world. People are going to be like, "Fuck yeah, I'd love to stuff around with those." That's really rad. And it can be something like similar to Mac DeMarco's Cam Tony thing, where it's almost cult. We don't really tell anyone unless people are looking for it, because the people who we probably want to touch that stuff are the people who are going to be digging into, you know, people like myself who would dig into someone like Jacob Collier real deep.
Yeah, sure.
You know.
All right. Let's continue.
Do you want to just call it quits on this part of the only yesterdays, and you can tell us about Brianna and Luke in our.
So, what I've done is, bear with me here. Can you pass me that? In fact, let me just. What you looking
at the time?
Yeah, we've eaten up a lot of time here.
Yeah.
So I'm going to go to audiences. So I've put together this list. They will eventually be prettier than this. This is the card view that Notion gives you. So these can eventually have images on each of these, which I will do. You can do things like have one of their AI models, like Google Gemini or whatever. You describe the person and get it to give you like a photorealistic image of that person doing a thing, and from there you can just use that as like a thumbnail image. Back in the olden days, when we would do this in big companies, we'd actually do sketches of the people and use them. But we are in a brave new world now where you can just type a description and up they come.
Yep.
So why would you not use it? So with these you can create as many of these or as few as you feel are useful when putting together what's called a personas analysis in marketing wank speak. In this case, I've put together 6, and within each of these, they'll all have these properties, right? So again, you can make these really complex or you can make them very simple. In this case, I've gone for something in between-ish. I'm just going to zoom in a bit to make this easier to see. But the basic breakdown that I've chosen to do is gender identity, sexual orientation, relationship status, has children, education level, income, job, and then some more that's all very quantitative, and then some more qualitative stuff down here. So interests and hobbies, aspirations, pain points and frustrations, favorite movies and TV shows, favorite music acts, which is probably the most important one, what their family unit looks like, favorite meals, favorite outfit. So it just gives us a very quick but strong flavor of who this person is.
Yeah.
So
so you're making up a person.
You are making up a person who is one of the ideal candidates for who you would like to be listening to your music.
Yeah. So you're coming at it from the opposite way to what
Absolutely.
an audience would come to you. Like
Yes.
say if I like a certain artist, I'm who I am and I find them and I engage with them.
Yeah.
But they're attractive to me for some kind of reason.
That's right.
And well, if they're if a marketing firm is behind them, like all the artists who work in record labels or anyone who's as big as like Taylor Swift or whatever, who's probably arguably the biggest artist in the world, they are, they use this kind of analysis to build audience.
But the thing is that we all do this subconsciously.
Yeah.
So if I say to you, describe to me someone who listens to Madonna, do you have an image in your head of what a Madonna listener might look like?
40s. Grew up through the 80s, going to fucking discos and dance clubs and frizzy hair back when they were younger, and they're probably a bit older now and they have a couple of kids and they've settled down and they reminisce over the ye days of old of the 80s dance club and the synthesizer.
Interesting. Yeah.
I don't know. Maybe I'm being heaps
No,
Heaps.
that would be one segment of our audience. But you can probably describe 4 or 5 people who would be like a typical Madonna listener.
Yeah, I
So
mean, I there wouldn't be, like, if I was going to be really honest about it, a lot of these people would be women listeners, I reckon. Like a good
to Madonna
to Madonna,
specifically.
yeah. There'd be a large female audience.
Yeah, there'd be heaps of queer folks.
Queer folks as well.
There'd be
some guys, because I think there's the James Bond link there, and there's some other, obviously, like there'll be other songs that fit with like some of the collaborations.
There'd be young people listening, ironically.
Yep.
There'd be
not that many though.
No, but it would still be an audience segment big enough
to think about. Who was Madonna? Madonna was the one who did the ABBA sample, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's an ABBA sample.
So you'd have even older listeners listening to Madonna as a result of that one sample.
Yeah.
She'd have a big cross section of the population in her potential audience, I'd say, as that, like, because of those things. Has she done anything more recently?
The most recent thing that I know of was maybe like pre-pandemic.
Yeah.
I don't think she's done anything after, but I could be wrong.
When did she do the Bond theme? Noughties?
Yeah, something like that.
Yeah, so not that long ago.
It was one of the Pierce Brosnan ones, right?
Yeah. So that'd be 90s, 2000s.
Yeah, it'd be 2000s. Yeah, maybe like 2002.
I've got it in my head. No Time to Die? That would be.
No Time to Die. No, that's a Daniel
one.
Craig
that's
one.
The
that's
new one.
Very new.
Whatever, it doesn't matter. But yeah, yeah, okay. It's hard. Like the challenge I'm having in my head is being semi-politically correct, because you can go, well, I mean, you use terms like female, like for someone like me, I feel weird using terms like female and queer and stuff like that necessarily in these contexts, because you're putting people in boxes, and that kind of feels a bit weird to me. And I mean, that's what we are.
You can make them very broad boxes.
Yeah.
Like, we've got lots of options here. So like, in this case, we've got male, female, non-binary, and other in gender identity.
Mm-hmm.
Like, if it's not useful to you to define this stuff, you just remove it.
Yeah.
As well. I feel quite comfortable with defining this stuff.
Yeah.
And
but that's because you've done it before.
And using terms like, we're talking about their gender identity.
Yeah.
Like, we could use terms like woman and man and whatever if that's easier. But I think having
what's orientation?
So in this case, same-sex attracted, heterosexual, bi, or other.
Yeah. Okay.
We could add pan. We could add all sorts of stuff there.
Yeah.
But again, like I've included this stuff for completeness. I don't know that necessarily either of those are useful to us for.
I probably think that maybe gender identity probably has a certain amount of, I don't know, with the fright stuff. It's hard to say. I wouldn't know what our audience is, which is why we're talking about this.
Well, if we're looking at this first song that we're releasing, it has a boy-girl vocal.
Mm-hmm.
It has a very clear, like, there might have been a relationship there thing. So there's kind of this, like, cis-het thing going on in this initial song.
Yeah.
It's ambiguous because it doesn't necessarily
tell
say,
a story.
like,
you broke up with me, you broke my heart, you bitch. Or that could go in either direction, mind you.
Yeah, it's kind of it could be a song about a familial estrangement. It could be a song about just like leaving behind a place and a kind of like a love letter to a place. That's being told from two different perspectives, like two people on a train, both going away from a single location, or flying away or whatever.
Well, can we try and fill one of these out then?
Well, hang on. I'm just going to run through this because this is all. A lot of this is filled out already.
Yeah.
As you'll see. So,
female
relationship
SSA,
status, has children,
partner,
education level, income.
Has children, no. Master's degree, income 75,000. runs a small business selling craft items.
Yeah. So you're starting to get an idea of who this person is.
Yeah,
like
sure.
You're painting a bit of a portrait.
Wow, they're doing pretty good. 75K selling craft items.
Well, they could be selling craft supplies.
That's true.
Interested. Hang on. What have I done here? I thought I filled some of these out. Okay. I hadn't
Of
filled those two out.
page or
Yeah, of page. Yeah. Okay. So pain points, right? Cynical about social media, yearns for simpler times.
90s.
Yeah.
Cocaine.
So we're gonna
Cocaine. Go on.
Favorite movies and TV shows: Buffy the Vampire Slayer, Lady Bird,
Scott Pilgrim versus the World,
and the Cornetto trilogy. So Edgar Wright type stuff.
Yep.
So again, we're painting in this portrait, so that all the work of like just being out in the void of when we're producing content, who are we imagining responding to it?
Yeah.
Right. So this is going to give us one facet that we can start looking at. So particularly, I'm interested in when we're doing this meta social media content, how do they feel about social media in general? So if we're doing something that's slightly satirical or something that like is looking at stuff that's trending on social media, but it's not just like I'm on the content mill.
Mm-hmm.
So who are we actually catering to? Well, I feel cynical about it. You feel cynical about it.
Yep.
So should we be considering playing around with content that also speaks to others that feel cynical about it?
Maybe.
Who might that person be, right? This is how this functions, right?
I'm also about using the platform in a holistically good way, because even though I feel cynical about social media, and this person probably shares some of our attributes.
Yeah.
I also recognize the value of some of the stuff that's being produced on social media. The problem is, just like with every technology that's made by humanity, there are people who use it for good and people who use it for not. And in this case, producing quality content, and by quality I mean something that has depth to it, that isn't just like reposts or shit posts or whatever you want to call it. Suddenly there's a value in it for me.
Okay. So anyway, I'm just going to run through this stuff very quickly because I'm aware that we're over time at this point.
That's all right.
And we've still got room to go. So, favorite movies and TV shows we talked about. Favorite musical acts: Phoebe Bridgers, Boy Genius, Death Cab for Cutie, The Smiths.
Yep.
Right.
Okay.
Family unit: monogamously partnered with a long-term girlfriend, one rescue greyhound, and they're child-free.
This person lives in Melbourne.
They've probably got a shaved head.
Maybe.
My favorite. So, favorite meals: honey toast and green tea. Favorite outfit: black leather jacket, jeans, and sneakers.
Yeah.
Right. So we now have a very clear image in our minds of who this person is, and the type of stuff that they are likely to interact with, the type of stuff they're likely to share.
And you don't feel weird when you make this imaginary person?
No, I don't feel weird about it at all.
This feels so weird to me.
It's it's almost like. This is going to sound very weird.
Go on.
It's almost like describing like people that you would like to be friends with.
Okay.
It's like if I could describe my perfect people that I would like to spend a Sunday afternoon having a barbecue with, who would they be?
Okay.
No one. I am alone.
I like to be by myself.
I have a large pile of sausages.
And no friends.
And I am alone. This is ideal.
Yeah.
So...
Yeah, okay. I could see. I'm still not seeing why this is valuable yet, but we're gonna get there.
Just bear with.
I'm bear-withing, but I'm also telling you.
Okay, so this is one that I filled out. I obviously haven't done interests and hobbies and aspirations, but I want to look at. So Luke is one that I actually built for another exercise earlier.
Mm-hmm.
And I haven't filled him out here, but he's a music industry marketer. So, but he's like, if we're talking about, I realized I didn't put age in this.
You're a goose.
I had it on my sheet, but didn't put it in.
There's one more property below.
Yeah, but that's not it. That's just the when it was created, which I was hiding because it's just useless to us.
Yeah.
Age. Perfect. So we're going to say he is 42. Has children? Yes. Relationship status, let's say, is partnered. Come on, let's fill some stuff in.
Orientation.
Het.
Yeah.
Gender identity,
Male.
fella. Education level, PhD, masters, batch. What are we thinking? High school.
Music industry marketer, probably just a batch, probably. Depends.
Yeah.
Depends how high
my
up
God,
in the
this
company
keyboard.
is.
Bachelors. Ugh,
I think maybe you need to.
this keyboard is
Yeah,
garbage.
I'll drive and you do it on your computer.
Garbage.
And, yeah, we need to fix that. Give me the
Okay.
mouse,
There you go.
and I will click out of that, and you can continue on your machine. There you go.
All right. Okay, so
I'm assuming you're in Luke now.
have I typoed that? I don't care. Income, let's say 145,000.
Yeah, he'd be high up there.
Yep.
Yep.
Right. So interests and hobbies. Longboarding. Coffee. Let's describe Luke. What's he into? Craft beers.
Yeah, craft beers. There's always craft beers. Like he's a music marketer, so his hobbies are not going to be anything to do with music, which we've just seen there. I honestly, he works in the city. He probably likes to camp as well.
Camping. Love it.
Yeah. So interests and hobbies. I don't reckon he's a gamer. Not with that. He's like an outdoorsy type. He likes socializing. Yeah, look, I reckon that's probably enough for that one.
I'm just gonna say barbecues as well.
Oh, like you
'cause
were reading my fucking mind. I was going to say it and then I didn't.
He doesn't have a big pile of sausages that he's sitting alone with.
No, he likes having barbecues with his
With his
other
mates.
couple friends.
Yeah.
Yeah,
The kiddies can get together.
yep. And they entertain each other while the adults get drunk on craft beers
On
and
the craft-
wine.
Yeah, precisely. Okay.
Aspirations. Probably he's a career man. He's a corporate career man by the looks of things.
Mhm.
His hobbies kind of demonstrate that, as does his family life.
Yeah, so he's pretty extroverted.
Yep. He probably aspires to be kind of the head of marketing at whatever record label he works at, or industry, whatever industry kind of thing.
Yeah.
He's not necessarily looking to be jumping careers at this point. It's climbing or sustaining in the particular thing. He might be kind of into he might be aspires to when we're talking about his interests and hobbies, he's probably trying to he might want to open a brewery one day or something like that. If he's ever going to quit his job, he dreams of leaving his corporate job to start a craft brewery.
So to give it all up and lead a simpler life.
Maybe.
To be seen as cool despite aging. That's one that I'm putting in there.
Yeah, I reckon that's fair.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
he wants to be
Remain hip as he needs to in the industry that he works in, because all of the people who work at the company in his department, except him and the bosses above him,
They're
are all
all-
22.
Yeah, precisely.
Yeah.
So why is it going to be interesting
This
for
is
him?
fun. I like making up this man now. Go on. Sorry.
But can you see how this is this starting to become clear? Like how this can start guiding not only your
you can
marketing
make
description.
monsters out of this. This is be hilarious. Anyway.
He's got one eye. He lives in a cave.
Yeah, only can consume music in mono because he's deaf. Because as a child, he poked himself in the ear with a toothpick and bursted one eardrum.
Wow,
Wow. See, it went dark real quick.
that's so unhelpful.
Yeah, it's not this. I'm not gonna. I'm not doing it for this.
Wow.
Pain points and
Pain points.
frustrations are
Right.
the corporate world and the futility of the corporate world. Probably, I think, is the word, and that kind of fits in with the yearning to live a simple life.
Yeah.
The monotony of wife, kids, suburb. I think that's
Yeah.
I would say that's probably a common feeling of
Yeah.
someone like this. He's on 145,000 a year. He probably spends a lot of time at work.
His local coffee shop is shithouse That's also a pain point.
He has to go too far for a good coffee.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
This guy's in Sydney, not Melbourne, clearly.
Yeah, clearly, because every single no, that's not true. What else?
It's kind
Pain
of enough.
points. That's
Like,
enough.
it's,
All right. Yeah, let's
you know,
just keep
he's
it
a
to
pretty
3.
light duty dude. You know what I
Yeah,
mean?
yeah. All right.
There's
Let's go
not
to the next thing. Favorite movies and TV shows. Westworld.
Interesting.
That's the one I'm thinking of, right?
Yeah.
It's the simulation.
Scroll down a little bit.
Oh,
Yeah.
sorry, not paying attention. Favorite movies and TV shows. He probably likes. What's that?
Great audio quality coming from your forehead.
I know, from my forehead. What's that film with Matthew McConaughey where he's the beach bum that lives on Venice Beach? That kind of, I can't remember the name of that one. I'm just trying to think of like Dude, Where's My Car or something like that. Like,
Yeah, I mean, yeah.
because you know that kind of stoner culture kind of fits in with
Yeah.
this guy's vibe.
I reckon
Maybe he used
this
to be
is
a stoner.
totally ex-stoner. Yeah.
He's ex-stoner.
I'm going to
guy.
put that in interests and hobbies.
stoner.
Ex-stoner. 100%.
Yeah.
Pineapple Express vibes.
Yeah, sure. Put that. I can get behind that.
Maybe get him to the Greek.
Yeah, maybe.
I'll just, just getting that.
Favorite movies, TV shows. I think there's got to be another TV show in here. I'm thinking stoner stuff. Mighty Boosh or something like that, maybe.
Yeah, okay, sure.
Um,
So he fancies himself as someone who has like good taste, but is not necessarily afraid to be silly.
yeah.
Um,
Favorite musical acts. And now it's going to get weird.
Sati. No,
Nah.
I'm joking. That's a joke.
This definitely strikes me as more kind of. He probably likes Nirvana and the Foo Fighters, and he probably really detested like Madonna. You know? Well, yeah, like he's 42, so he's a bit older than me. So what era? That's early 80s at that point.
Yeah, but keep in mind this is someone who's kept up with music too.
Oh, okay. Yeah, so he probably likes newer stuff.
Yeah,
as well.
I'm seeing this guy as someone who likes bands like San Cisco.
Yeah, okay, I can get behind that. What's that? Yeah, like even like that's pop. He probably surely he doesn't like the Rubens. Maybe he does.
I could see him liking the Rubens.
Yeah, he's pretty. Even though he's got a weird taste in films, he seems like he's got a mainstream boring taste in music.
Dunno.
This bit's hard. Because there's such a diversity, like with music in particular, because it's so at our fingertips, the diversity of genre it's no longer. Let's come back to that. He's not going to like Jacob Collier. He's not going to like jazz, I don't think.
All right, let's keep blasting through.
He has 2 young kids and a wife who roll their eyes at him a lot. That means he's like Bat Dad.
Who's that dad?
He's Bat Dad.
Oh, Bat Dad.
Yeah. Have you seen Bat Dad on
I've
social
not.
media? Yeah. He's got 2 kids and a wife, and he pretends to be Batman and annoys the shit out of them. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, it's funny. Favorite meals. Oh man, it's got to be steak, right? This guy loves a good steak.
Steak and chips
Steak and chips
at the pub.
or a snitty. Yep, I can get behind a schnitzel.
A schnitty.
Snitty
if
or
he's
or
feeling less fancy.
yeah, less fancy. Favorite outfit. He'll wear like generic clothes like the black t-shirt and jeans, but he wears like a cool jacket, like me.
I don't think he does.
No, what do you think he wears?
I think.
Oh,
he's
you reckon he's like one of those weird people who wears chinos?
Yeah, I reckon he's like a chinos and thongs guy.
Oh,
Getting around Manly.
yeah, I can get that.
Probably lives in Manly.
Yeah, chinos and thongs on his days off, and chinos and work
White
shoes.
t-shirt.
Yeah, I can get behind that.
White t. Whoa. T.
Do you reckon he wears band shirts?
Shirt.
I reckon he probably would wear a band shirt to work,
yeah,
right?
band
This
shirts.
dude, he would wear a band shirt to work, and it'd be an inappropriate band shirt because he's trying to fit in with the younger crowd, right? So what's some like? He probably likes Peach PRC or something.
Actually, I'm going to put Peach PRC in favorite music.
Yeah, and Doja Cat because of that one song about butts.
Yeah.
And he was on the internet when she did "Bitch, I'm a cow. I don't say meow. I go moo."
Wow.
Those are some fucking epic lyrics,
Yeah,
right
pretty
there.
good. Pretty good.
Yeah, so yeah, I can do that. Chinos, thongs, band shirts, for that are way outside of his age demographic.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's not wearing a Triple J shirt. He's wearing a Peach PRC shirt or something along those lines. Yeah,
That's it.
Yeah.
So we've just painted a picture of a guy.
he's a guy.
He's a guy.
Yep.
So the thinking is that now we can use this sort of stuff. Like if we're writing songs that speak to those pain points and frustrations, we now have this kind of scaffold of someone who would be affected by those things,
Mm-hmm.
and we can speak to them
Mm-hmm.
as if when we're creating social media content, for example. We don't have to create it for them, but we can have an understanding. We can put ourselves in the position of someone who will be responding to that positively
Mm-hmm.
and make fine-tune stuff to ensure as much as possible that we're getting like a good result, in inverted commas.
The question at this point is, does this actually fucking work?
It absolutely works.
Yeah.
At least as evidenced by the giant companies that I've done work for in the past.
Yeah.
This is like a cornerstone to how they do it.
Do you think it kind of can potentially leave you down the pathway to ruin if you're not careful?
You can definitely overcook it
Yeah.
and come off as like pandering.
Mm-hmm.
This is definitely a step down the road to pandering.
And we don't want to necessarily, like, I think a lot of what we want to do is we want to be authentic creatives, but we also want to have sustained careers. So there's a certain amount of shameless self-promotion that you have to do. And I would argue that shameless self-promotion is speaking to audiences that aren't necessarily your people.
Well, yes and no. I mean, I think that the audience is large enough. Like, there's enough people in the world that we can, by throwing out this stuff and going like, who do we think of as being our community? Let's paint some portraits of people who are in our community.
Yeah.
We're not bringing in people here that are like, what am I trying to say here?
You're
I don't know.
speaking.
My brain's gone quite fuzzy.
Yeah, I know. We're at the end.
Yeah, we're like past the end.
No, that's all right. Let's close up this thought because this will be an ongoing discussion.
Yeah. Okay. Well, anyway, this is effectively how you do a personas analysis. Is you go, who do I picture as being part of my community? Who do I picture as being the type of people that I want to speak to? And you paint this portrait of them that you can reference back to.
Mm-hmm.
And when you're creating content, you just have a think of like, how can I make this 5% more useful to Luke? How can I make this 5% more useful to Paige? Depending on what you're making, coming from you, it being as like, who's the best fit? Who are the two best fits for this content? And how can I make it just a little more them?
Or you could just have a controversy and make diss tracks of your
what
your
of your audience,
of your, not your audience, but the guys that you came up with. You know,
okay,
like Drake and Kendrick.
As a way to build an audience, you reckon?
Do you reckon they built their audience by doing that?
Well, almost certainly yes, but I also think that it's one of these cases of like the more eyeballs are pointed in the general direction of the whole
situation.
Yeah, like hip hop undoubtedly has seen a decrease in popularity, right? We've had this rise of this rekindling of interest in pop music, in a way that like over the past 20 years has not necessarily been the case. Like hip hop and rap music have been the dominant kind of forces in music.
Mm-hmm.
And now pop music's having this resurgence into the fore. Country music is having this resurgence into the fore, and hip hop is the loser in this. Like it's simmering down. It's on a downward trajectory. So having this kind of stuff pointing eyeballs to it is important. So I think it's in everyone's best interest in that community to get on the bandwagon and talk about this sort of stuff and increase the amount of.
I guess the question I have is, like, doing something like that, is this relevant to a stunt like that?
I mean, in a sense, yeah, you would have,
because that's really broad audience stuff too.
Yeah, I don't know that it's as helpful. Right, this is supposed to be a tool that helps you figure out content, like the when you're generating content, what's going to be relevant to your audience, because you can point to them and say, the stuff that I'm producing is going to resonate with this person because they have these qualities about them, and helps you to, like, when you're framing your artistic ventures, how am I going to change things there to better be meaningful to these people? Keeping in mind that idea that if meaning is created as between the artist and the audience, the better you can understand the audience, the better you can shape that meaning, right? So you have to have some level of understanding. The example that I've always pointed to historically here is Courtney Barnett.
Yep.
Right. You can listen to early Courtney Barnett stuff when she was in the band, the Olivettes.
Yep.
And you can hear that sounds a particular way. It sounds like just about any other indie band from Melbourne at the time.
Yep.
They're not particularly distinctive. But then you can go, if we were to pull up a personas analysis of people who might fall into Courtney Barnett's interesting demographic, and you can identify things about them, you might find that there's an audience in there that has 3 or 4 people in there. They all actually really like singer-songwriters. They all like Bob Dylan, you know. And then you hear when Courtney Barnett goes solo that she has this very affected Bob Dylan vibe. And then this permeates out into press. Everyone writing about Courtney Barnett when she released her debut all was saying, it's an Australian Bob Dylan. It's Australia's response to Bob Dylan. It's blah, blah, blah. Then she's in the US and she's playing on Bob Dylan's guitar. She creates this very strong cultural association that resonates with people that are into Bob Dylan. She has this built-in audience. That to me does not feel accidental. That feels to me like someone who has done a thing like this, has looked at audience and identified a nugget of, here is something that is meaningful to the people that I want to speak to, and I can change my art to better match their interests as a way into their lives. You don't really get that without doing a piece of work like this. You can of course accident your way into this stuff, but I don't think that's the case here. I think it was a contrived move, and a really clever contrivance.
Yeah, well, after seeing her website, I tend to agree with that, because I get the impression she really thinks about
massively
this kind of stuff.
Yeah, I don't think there's anything accidental about her career. I think she's a very methodical, pragmatic maker.
Yeah.
Which I've got all the time in the world for. I think it's fantastic. And yeah, like you say, her website is an incredible resource that has, it's documented every gig that she has ever done.
Yeah, no, I really like that thing.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay. So I think we should continue this discussion about personas analysis once I've got my head around it a bit more.
All right. There's going to be a week 3, everybody.
Well, I mean, this is always ongoing, this stuff, you know. And I, like, it's not going anywhere. Like, we're going to be continuing to interact with these processes as we continue down the road of making music as a band and understanding how to translate that investment into returns. You know, we're talking very like capitalisty right now, not really much like artists, where it's like, I'm gonna make it because it made me feel this way and it's the vibe. But we're at a point where I feel like you have to do both to have a sustained career.
Well, yeah, I mean, you always have.
Yeah,
Like
but it's not understood, and I'm still blown. Like, it's blowing my mind that people don't get it. Like, when I say people, artists don't get it. Has been the general gist. So, yeah, we will continue next week, because as we do this rollout of yesterday, the track by Frights. Well,
by us.
by us.
By Frights.
By Frights. We will be engaging in these activities in some way, as we demonstrated earlier in the stream. And you'll get to see the result of that. And we'll talk about it more at length, no doubt, and annoy the shit out of everyone with it.
Yay.
So,
something to look forward to.
Yeah. So next week, another stream, a continuation of social media, how we're rolling out this track, like what.
We might actually get to the granular planning stuff that we didn't get to today.
Well, we always talk like for me, because I feel like when we have these kinds of discussions, because you're coming at from the point of expertise, and I'm at the point of expertise for making the music and doing all the technical and creative stuff around the music making component, and your expertise is all the stuff that happens after that, basically. Yeah, which is more important. I think we've decided.
Well, I mean, it is important. Let's not
put levels on it.
Let's yeah. Mine's more important.
All right, let's wrap it up.
All right. Well, thanks for tuning in, everybody. We've got someone on Kick saying, howdy, fellas. Well, howdy to you.
Hello.
You should follow along. You should give us a like, heart, favorite, etc.
Yep.
Hey?
And there's a few to catch up on if you haven't seen any.
You got hours of content.
Yeah. The last two are the best ones.
Of quite the early ones are quite shitty.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I'm sure that we will think that these are quite shitty as we keep building proficiency, and that's where we want to be.
Yeah,
because that's what this is all about. It's about building proficiency.
And I'm going to say this. I'm going to make a wild prediction about the next week's stream. There is going to be a Frights track that you can listen to.
Oh God.
Yeah.
Well.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
Out of the many that we're trying to finish, there will be one that's finished.
Wow. It won't be in Finnish. It will be in English.
Oh, sorry. Finland.
Anyway.
All right. If you want to sign off.
Okay. I've been Simon. This has been Josh. We've been Frights.
Yep.
We are a band trying to figure out how to music.
How to music and how to have sustainable careers.
Yes. Because in some sense we do know how to music. You make the bleeps and the bloops and you make them bleep and bloop.
Yeah. Structured bleep and blooping.
Well, that's right. To a semi-consistent timing.
Yeah.
However, the releasing of the music and the making enough money to survive off the releases of the music is complicated for us and for everyone. So we're going to fall flat on our faces a bit and share our findings in the hope that it helps people and helps us fall on our faces less.
Yeah.
This has been a very long stream. And I will be glad to put it away, but also glad to pick it up again next week. If you want to see next week's stream or any of the stuff that's going to happen between then and now, hit up frights.band in your browser and follow along on your favorite platforms.
That's it.
Hey.
All right. Thanks, everyone.